Hi everyone, it's Ollie from Magic Hands Hobbies. Welcome back to another tutorial. This is following the HeroQuest models that I got with the latest version from Hasbro Pulse. This series is called Trust in the Wash. The idea is this should be a very simple tutorial with a base coat and a wash, and if you want to, add some additional highlights. I'm trying to show to people that you don't need to be an expert, you don't need to know all the skills involved in order to get a pretty decent paint finish for your models. I'm using very basic brushes, I'm using all the usual paints, and I'm being quite haphazard with it. So let's get on and paint the skeleton from the HeroQuest box. I know that there is another version of the skeleton, and I have been painting those up as well, but this is for the standard one that comes with the base box set. We're just going to apply a bone colour all over the skin. Now, as you can see, I've put a black base coat down, which means that this this bone colour isn't going on perfectly. You don't want to put it on too thick, so it's better to have a couple of thin coats in order to get that covered. So what will happen is I'll put another coat on, finish off the bone, and it should come back pretty opaque with a decent colour. Now we're going to take some Bloody Red from Vallejo Game Colour. We're going to take some Tan Colour and Fur Brown from War Paints, as well as Chainmail Silver from Game Colour. So this colour that I'm applying to the all the wood didn't actually turn out to be the colour that I wanted. This was the Fur Brown. It was a bit too terracotta for my liking, a bit too bright, so I ended up changing it later. So we put that on all the wood. We're putting the chainmail on all the silver. Keep it nice and simple. You can use any silver you want, it depends what kind of effect you're going for. At the end of the day, we're applying a wash to this, so it's going to get stained, it's going to go darker. So it depends whether you want to go for a dark silver or a light silver. I'll also be applying my standard two-stage wash to the silver to give it a stained and rusted looking effect. Adding the silver to the weapon as well. Now we're moving on to the red. The red I'm going to apply to all of the material parts around his waist. This is like the little skirt thing. Then we're going to put the brown colour, the same fur brown, all over the leg guards. I'm not actually sure what the name of these are. If you actually know what they are, put it down in the comments, let me know. But there's no metallics down there, it is just fur. Also, don't forget the straps and the material on the scythe itself, across the top of the blade and down the handle. Again, this is just a simple process. Base colours. Moving on to Monster Brown. This is what I actually ended up using on the wood. I felt it was a far better looking colour for this. So we're going to go back over the wood on the scythe just to provide a bit of differentiation between the two browns. Right, there's the finished base model. Now moving on to the washes. This will all sink down into the crevices, creating the shadows. It will stay on the top of the edges, but it will be thinner, and this will provide highlights. It will stain the colour, so you need to be aware of that when you're doing this with washes. It will stain the colour, it will change the way it looks. The way that I like to paint, the style I like to paint, it actually it makes it, as far as I'm concerned. I really like this way of doing things. But you don't have to stop with the washes. If you want to move further with your painting experience, you can then reapply the base colour and then work up in smaller and smaller areas, building up highlights with brighter and brighter colours. And ultimately that's one method, one way in which you can really make your models pop. we're just applying the brown wash. This is to all of the bone areas. You don't have to use Citadel Games Workshop colours for this. If you've got any other washes or you make your own recipe, then so be it. I've actually got 2 huge pots of Vallejo wash in the garage, which I intend to give a try after I've finished with these Games Workshop ones. Now you can see the pooling above the knee there. I need to make sure I get rid of that. We don't want the wash gathering too much in too many places because it can ruin the paint scheme. So what you want to do is get as much wash off the brush as possible, and then you dip the dry brushes back into where the wash is gathering and it will soak it up like a sponge. Black wash, this will go over everything else. Everything you haven't already touched with the brown wash, this will go over those areas. I think that was the wrong model I picked up. Here we go. So this will then have all of the black over all of the silver areas and all of the material. Do not use good brushes for washes. The wash has a tendency to creep up into the bristles, and if you don't pay attention to it, it'll end up pushing your bristles apart where it dries. You can potentially clean it out with brush soap and brush cleaners and brush restorers, but it's just not worth the hassle. Save your good brushes. There you go. That is the wash dry. Now what I'm going to do, this is my staining method that I use on all metals when I want them to look a bit grubby. Just take the brown wash, not too much, and you literally just stipple the brown wash over the top, and you'd be surprised at the effect that it gives once it's dried. You can go a step further than this, and you can use rust paints on top. I've got a Games Workshop rust paint. It's a dry brush effect paint, and you can just flick that over the top if you want to go for that. I've decided not to do that in this particular case. So now we're moving on to some glowing eyes, as per the box art and the game cards that come with this. Now there are better ways of doing this. I'm brushing it on, whereas what I think I should have done was really dry brush it on using a small dry brush. It would give a softer glow effect. So we're starting with a darker blue, just painting it into the socket and around the socket. I even start putting some in the mouth. Now this is taking a little bit too much time for my liking, so this is the only model I actually put it in the mouth. All of the rest of them I actually just leave it around the eyes. Now the lighter blue. Now I want to say you want to pick out the eyes, but there isn't actually anything in there. All you're doing is painting a socket and trying to give the impression that a glow is coming from within the skull. Now what I've actually done here is I've added a bit of white to the lighter blue, just to try and put a focal point in there. It wasn't standing out too much, so the idea is just to try and make it look like there is a light source within there. It's at this point that I realised that I should have done some dry brushing around the edges of the eyes, so I'm trying to feather out the paint that's on there whilst it's still wet. Just try and pull it around the edges nice and softly. I'm not sure whether I've achieved it. It may be a bit over the top, or maybe it just needed a little bit of a brighter focal point in the middle. But you know what, I'm going to call that done. I think that's good enough, and I just need to do that to all of his mates. Well, if you've made it this far in the video, I really appreciate it. Thanks very much. If you liked what you saw and you want to see more, press the like button. Love to see you subscribe, that'd be great. And if you've got any comments, just leave them below. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.